faithfully delivering value, interpreting great books from around the world. Hi, this is Sally here with Book Talks. Today, I'm going to interpret this book called Cubicle with the subtitle The Evolution of the Office. The office cubicle is the most familiar workspace for contemporary office workers. People walk into office buildings every day, sit down in their own cubicles, face the computer, and are busy all day long. But have you ever thought about how such an office environment actually came to be? Well, why is it the way it is today? And what will it develop into in the future? The answers are all in this book we're talking about today. And the author of this book, Nikhil Saval, graduated from Columbia University. He's an Indian-American writer who has long contributed to renowned media like the New York Times and Los Angeles Times. Currently, he also serves as an editor for the American magazine N plus One. N plus One is a literary magazine hailed in the U.S. as the leader of the new generation of literary intellectuals. The author previously published an article in N plus One magazine titled The Birth of the Office, which sparked strong reactions. Afterwards, he conducted further research on the evolution of the office and related key topics, such as the rise of the white-collar class, capitalist employment relations, and management reforms, leading to this book, Cubicle. After publication, the book was immediately selected as a New York Times Notable Book of the Year and an Amazon Best History Book of 2014. It also received praise and recommendations from numerous prominent American media outlets like The New Yorker, The Guardian, and The Washington Post. Next, I'll take you through the evolution of the office in 3 parts: its birth, changes, and future. First, let's see how the office was born. The office is a product of the Western world, originating earliest in Europe. Its emergence is tied to clerical work like copying and bookkeeping. And when now I realize that when such jobs and the clerks who did them appeared, similar office spaces came into being. In the early 16th century, Europe's foremost noble family, the Medici family, established the first true office in history, specifically for their employees to do clerical work. The address is in what's now known as the Uffizi Gallery in Florence, Italy, a treasure trove of Renaissance art. Right there in what's now called the Uffizi Gallery in Florence, Italy, a treasure trove of Renaissance art, including this office. During the Renaissance period, from the 14th to 16th centuries, the offices of Italian banks or merchants had a unified name, counting house. In the mid to late 18th century, the Industrial Revolution erupted. Commercial trade flourished in capitalist countries worldwide, and offices along with clerks gradually entered public consciousness. Over the next 2 centuries, as society progressed further, both the form of offices and the fate of clerks underwent tremendous transformations. Among these changes, America's social evolution particularly shaped the development of offices. In the United States, people only began noticing offices in the early 19th century. Back then, American offices were also called counting houses, just like during the Italian Renaissance period. These offices typically had a street-facing door, opening into dim spaces where a central desk was reserved for partners, the bosses. They employed a small number of clerks, mainly copyists, bookkeepers, and occasionally insurance agents handling insurance matters. Seated at desks in room corners, these offices weren't just dim, but often severely overcrowded. For instance, a New York Commission office for agricultural products, just 2.32 square meters, crammed 4 partners and 6 clerks inside. But in an era dominated by agriculture, transportation, and construction, most Americans didn't see clerical work as different from farm or factory labor. Office work produced nothing tangible at best. It replicated things, copyists endlessly copying, bookkeepers summing numbers into new figures. Insurance agents merely generated more documents. Beyond misunderstood work, clerks' distinctive appearance drew heavy criticism.
All clerks were male then. Female clerks only emerged in the late 19th century, since pre-Civil War America had family farms as women's primary workplaces.
People then believed real working men should be muscular and suntanned, while clerks appeared frail, pale, dull, even somewhat effeminate. Their business attire also faced scrutiny. Newspapers blasted clerks for overly flashy outfits. Polished shoes, crisp shirts, tight pants, slick back oiled hair, looking greasy. They especially prized shirt collars, bleached spotless, starched stiff, creating an excessively dignified appearance. This was starkly different from the baggy blue workwear commonly worn by the American working class at that time.
Thus, clerks began being called by a name still used today: white-collar workers.
But initially, this term was somewhat amateurish, since collared business shirts were expensive and most clerks couldn't afford them. Merchants sold detachable collars separately, where a dozen collars cost less than one shirt. So people saw clerks as outwardly dignified but inwardly weak and artificial, just like those removable white collars. Yet despite people's disdain, by mid-19th century, clerks and offices had quietly spread across America. As America's industrialization accelerated, domestic and international trade grew, and shops selling various goods multiplied. This required people to handle cargo logistics, accounting, paperwork, and more. Consequently, clerk numbers surged dramatically throughout cities. In the 1855 U.S. Census, clerks became the third largest occupational group, after servants and laborers. This clerk army's rapid expansion signaled they'd become as crucial as blue-collar workers, even developing a quiet sense of superiority. This superiority came from two aspects. First, income. Mid-19th century, a blue-collar worker averaged about $500 annually. Meanwhile, a 30-year-old clerk could earn $1,500 to $2,000 yearly.
Crucially, workers were paid hourly by piece, while clerks had stable salaries, far more secure in volatile, panic-prone America.
But clerks' superiority stemmed mainly from career prospects. Factory youths never dreamed of becoming plant managers, yet clerks often became company partners, partly due to 19th century office layouts. Despite poor conditions, proximity to superiors gave clerks intimate access to power. In the boss's eyes, a clerk could be an attendant, management trainee, assistant manager, or even a potential son-in-law. On the other hand, due to diverse responsibilities, a clerk might simultaneously handle bookkeeping, copying, sales, boss duties, and secretarial work. Thus, their broad responsibilities required extensive knowledge, deep insights, and constant grace and poise. All this prepared them to become true businessmen. Progressing from ordinary clerk to company partner was just a matter of time. Edward Todd, a clerk at a New York distributor, documented his career in his diary. He became a clerk at 18. Just 7 years later, at 25, he was considered a businessman. In its early days, the office offered hope for career advancement and stable, respectable lives, shaping clerks' mild and patient character. So, even when making demands, they had to maintain decorum. For example, in 1841, New York textile clerks united against long hours, but used gentle, chatty language, prolonging their ineffective campaign. Yet over time, clerks' hopes for career growth and stability gradually became illusions. This illusion persisted for a whole century, but grew harder to realize. Next, we enter part 2 to explore how offices and clerks evolved from the late 19th century to late 20th century. This history involved 3 major management reforms. Late 19th century commerce expansion multiplied clerk numbers. Data shows by 1910, clerks reached 4.42 million, nearly 5% of America's population. Meanwhile, office appearances transformed. Reinforced concrete and elevators enabled downtown skyscrapers, while typewriters, phones, telegraphs, etc. arrived. Advanced office equipment flooded in, alongside new employees. Rows of desks filled skyscraper halls, replacing the street-level counting houses of old. With the rapid growth in clerk numbers, office organizational structures underwent profound changes. This transformation began in the railroad industry, which adopted a groundbreaking structure to match its expanding network. At the top, was the decision-making board of directors. Below that, the general manager, then specialized departments like finance, construction, and machinery. Each department had its own manager, and this structure soon spread throughout the business world. Even today, most companies retain this model, where clerks increasingly lost apprenticeship opportunities with bosses. Work specialization meant most employees did one task: bookkeeping, administration, filing, or invoicing, rarely learning full business processes. Meanwhile, added management levels transformed office layouts. Employee rank differences became glaringly visible in workspaces. Some had only desks, others had private offices. Some sat in mass-produced metal chairs, others in hand-carved chairs, while bosses retreated to top-floor luxury suites. The intimate harmony of early counting houses vanished in offices flaunting inequality, but hierarchical structure was just form. New managers lacked management concepts, causing bloated bureaucracy and unclear responsibilities. This sparked the first major management revolution, Taylor's scientific management revolution. Initiated by Frederick Taylor, later dubbed the efficiency expert, then an American Society of Mechanical Engineers member, Taylor gained attention through articles on incentives and productivity. In 1898, Bethlehem Steel, a U.S. Navy weapons supplier, hired Taylor to boost efficiency and ease labor conflicts. To maximize efficiency, Taylor required managers to dissect workflows into assembly lines, complex tasks divided among 10 workers doing simple steps. For example, pressing buttons, tightening screws, etc. Managers timed workers' every move with stopwatches. Pay depended on units completed. Work faster to earn more. And scientific management gained widespread acceptance and gradually infiltrated office clerks. Whether sealing envelopes, affixing stamps, or filing documents, efficiency was demanded, eliminating wasted motions. For instance, clerks couldn't scatter papers while processing files to reorganize later. They must organize while working.
Another case, a typist who glanced at hard copy 4 or 5 times per sentence was ordered to look only once, boosting speed by 2 to 3%.
Additionally, like factories, dedicated supervisors monitored clerks. Managers patrolled offices, peering down. Clerks at desks didn't whisper or slack off, because every extra motion meant penalty points. The 1915 modern efficiency desk enabled this omnipresent surveillance. These desks were exposed metal surfaces, laying clerks' work bare to managers' eyes. Scientific management utterly transformed clerks' relationship with work. It meant complete loss of autonomy over work, under perpetual observation. Meanwhile, female office workers suddenly surged in number. During the 1860s U.S. Civil War, labor shortages prompted female clerk hires. Industrialization replaced family farms, forcing women into city offices for income. Officers and indie benefit, yet offices treated women unfairly. Lowest wages for mechanical roles like typists and stenographers, with zero promotion chances. Simultaneously, women endured workplace sexual harassment. Post-W1, America faced severe economic crisis. White-collar unemployment soared. Salaries plummeted. Living costs rose. Job hopelessness and financial insecurity amplified anxiety. In this context, the white-collar movement began maturing. For instance, railroad clerk unions grew from 5,000 members in 1915 to 186,000 by 1920. Stenographer and accountant unions also expanded from 8 local chapters pre-war to 40 post-war. This common series, common sense, had they struck like workers, consequences would have been unimaginable. Yet this revolutionary seed hadn't fully taken root, but America's 1920 economic recovery, boosting corporate salaries, quickly dissolved momentum. White-collar unions hemorrhaged members, facing dissolution. Media fiercely attacked clerks as pluck, weak, compromising white-collar slaves. Still, government and corporate fears about the movement persisted.
To neutralize this threat, change was imperative.
This catalyzed the second management revolution. In early 1930s, Freudian psychology's spread made subconscious-focused management theories trendy. The American Office Management Association then noted well-designed offices influence subconsciousness, reducing work dissatisfaction. Thus, workplaces needed respectability, cleanliness, and ample lighting. Beyond physical conditions, management theorists agreed humane offices required warm relationships, exemplified by human relations school pioneers. Harvard Business School's Alton Mayo argued humans need belonging and intimacy. Managers must respect employees, listen to needs, and collaborate, fostering organizational security. Inspired by these ideas, architects eagerly sought to rebuild tranquility through office redesign, starting with urban skyscrapers. Earlier skyscrapers featured flamboyant Italian Renaissance decor, focusing only on exteriors and entrances. Interior offices remained bland, monotonous, and inhuman. Emerging architects believed truly ideal office buildings should be stylishly grand, with high-quality facilities and considerate interiors. Under this architectural concept, modern-style skyscrapers began rising in American city centers, with the most iconic being Lever House, still standing on Park Avenue in New York. And its most brilliant innovation was covering three sides with thin glass curtain walls, letting sunlight flood in and making the interior spacious, elegant, and culturally rich. Later, glass-curtained skyscrapers became symbols of international metropolises. Moreover, its interior design was meticulous. Office widths were only 18.3 meters, so most desks were within 7.6 meters of windows. Oh, Andy, this let every employee fully enjoy natural light. Desks were ergonomically designed with adjustable heights and rounded corners, plus kitchens, cafeterias, gardens, lounges, and other amenities throughout the building. Lever House achieved the standardization of modernist skyscrapers. Afterwards, similar buildings rose across major U.S. cities, bringing unprecedented comfort and dignity to office workers. But for most ordinary office employees, their situation didn't truly improve, despite this dignity. Inside modern skyscrapers, staff still worked at noisy open-plan desks, while managers had well-designed private offices. Executives' luxurious suites occupied the cloud-scraping top floors, still an office world full of inequality. By mid-20th century, U.S. white-collar workers exceeded 20 million. Yet downtown office space didn't increase proportionally. Many companies chose to leave crowded cities for sparsely populated suburbs. Here, office buildings spread horizontally instead of vertically, enabling chance encounters between people. So architects and designers began incorporating interpersonal considerations into suburban office designs. For example, in campus designs, the main building of Connecticut General Life Insurance's headquarters was a sprawling three-story office complex covering 1,200 square meters. And this building ingeniously designed corridor layouts to foster chance encounters. Its designer was quite proud. Here, whether in the cafeteria, lounge, or moving through long office corridors, people had chances to meet and understand each other better. Such designs aimed to create a seemingly classless workplace, fostering intimacy to mask white-collar factories' essence. Yet, the building retained private offices and open-plan desks, differences that best highlighted class divisions. In practice, human relations theory spawned new office cultures, where companies imposed invisible control, trapping employees in cage-like conformity. First, formulaic jargon proliferated. Phrases like, "Please be advised," "Kindly note," "This matter is in progress," banning rhythm, or rhetorical questions. Orthodox business lingo demanded robotic concision, forcing employees into stiff linguistic cages. Second, companies used personality tests for control. Managers believed workplace harmony required employees without extreme traits. Post-World War II, they imported tests from mental hospitals and prisons to screen candidates, assessing radical versus conservative, reformist versus complacent. To keep jobs, employees had to intuit company dogma and reshape their personalities. For example, if asked whether female infidelity was worse than male, you'd better say yes. regardless of your beliefs. Otherwise, you'd be deemed too radical to hire. Ultimately, the best test answers came from the most mediocre, or those faking mediocrity. For female employees, this relationship-focused culture added extra burdens. Most visibly, under socializing pretenses, office sexual harassment grew brazen. A popular chase game involved male groups pursuing skirted female clerks. Whoever caught her removed her underwear. Attempts to ease discontent through improved environments backfired, causing more trauma. Oh, I see the... By mid-20th century, even in affluent post-war offices, anxiety and confusion reigned, while white-collar numbers kept soaring. In 1956, U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics showed white-collar workers nearing 27 million, surpassing blue-collar workers for the first time, becoming America's business majority. The white-collar union threat persisted, seemingly more severe, requiring new solutions to ease tensions. This context birthed the third management theory revolution. In the 1960s, management guru Douglas McGregor openly opposed Frederick Taylor in The Human Side of Enterprise, dubbing Taylor's approach Theory X. Theory X was hierarchical, involving coercion, manipulation, and surveillance. He proposed Theory Y, believing work should harness initiative, making it as joyful as play or rest. Around 1962, contemporary with Theory Y, modern management father Peter Drucker introduced the knowledge worker concept. Drucker argued office work was evolving. Knowledge mattered most, requiring environments conducive to intellectual labor. Inspired by both ideas, architects and designers grew restless. Late 1967, designer Robert Probst created the Action Office, a three-walled workspace with 120-degree movable partitions, allowing freedom while enabling collaboration for inspiration. It featured varied height shelves, requiring constant sitting or standing. Probst believed physical movement stimulated creativity in white-collar minds. Bulletin boards and pinwalls enabled personalization. The Action Office gained quick acclaim, but knockoffs emerged with shrunken spaces and rigid right angles instead of 120-degree curves. These resembled today's cubicles, but were corporate favorites for their cheapness. Probst lamented. Managers never wanted autonomy, just cheaper ways to cram more people into less space. According to a 1997 Business Week editorial, average cubicle size decreased 25% to 50% from mid-1980s to mid-1990s. By then, about 35 million of America's 45 million white-collar workers labored in cubicles. Advanced management theories still failed office workers. The Action Office for knowledge workers became cramped cubicles. Nor did knowledge theory promotion bring real prospects elsewhere in office life. For instance, Drucker believed knowledge work correlated directly with education. Higher education meant better jobs. Thus, from the 1970s to 80s, landing office jobs required ever higher qualifications. Yet this education far exceeded actual job requirements. Offices filled with overeducated employees whose expectations violently clashed with promotion realities. Early 1990s brought new economic crisis and massive U.S. layoffs. Just 1990 to 1992 saw 1.1 million office workers laid off, each terrified of termination. The intellectualized office rhetoric was brutally shattered by reality. Yet, the disillusioned expressed discontent mildly, through slacking or complaining, calling cubicles prisons as if they caused their plight. Genuine white-collar movements remained scattered, making little business impact. Meanwhile, office buildings shifted from lavish modernism to postmodernism. Postmodernism advocated inclusive, flexible architecture, buildings for offices, residences, and mixed uses. This flexibility ironically mirrored office workers' precarious loss of certainty and security. An AT&T employee stated, "We seek both autonomy and security, but the transformed office world offers neither." This precisely voiced all office worker sentiments from late 19th to late 20th century. Why do attempts to change office environments always end up with unexpected results? What direction will future offices develop towards? This is part 3 of our discussion today. Why do well-intentioned reforms always end up distorted? Office reforms try to eliminate work dissatisfaction by shifting employee focus or improving physical spaces. But these mostly fail to address core needs. Employees crave equality and fairness in offices. They want work autonomy, not just mechanical labor, recognition, not neglect, creative freedom, not personality-crushing constraints. Every reform fails to balance these. An office's physical form alone doesn't determine workers' true feelings. Dim 19th century counting houses still gave clerks superiority. Yet cubicles and lavish skyscrapers breed resentment. For most hopeless junior staff, cubicle complaints mask unfulfilled desires for equality and freedom. For example, when companies removed cubicles, employees immediately complained about privacy loss. Others in identical cubicles don't complain at all. During early 1990s U.S. layoffs, companies reserved private offices for elites while cramming others into cubicles. This included professional managers who accepted cubicles knowing they'd return to private offices. Similarly, mid-1990s, Intel placed everyone, even founder Andy Grove, in cubicles. Media pointed out, if you can leave your cubicle anytime, work nationally by plane, and earn $100 million yearly, you're not trapped. Thus, changing physical office spaces alone can't achieve equality and freedom. It's inevitably futile. True office evolution must accompany upgrades in compensation, benefits, incentive systems, corporate culture, and other management approaches. So what exactly makes an ideal work environment? The author highlights bold company experiments, like Google offering all-day free meals, on-demand gyms and childcare services, on-site medical care, and even bringing your dog to work. Meanwhile, Yahoo's flexible remote work policies represent another possibility, though these remain surface-level changes. Their effectiveness still depends on balancing efficiency with fairness. Can they truly meet workers' needs? The author ventures a bold prediction. Traditional offices may vanish, replaced by freelancers. Future labor contracts will transform radically. Gone is the "I'm the boss, you follow orders" model. Instead, here's our goal. Which part can you tackle? You'd choose and control work entirely by preference. Teams would form per project, electing temporary leaders without hierarchy, eliminating inequality. But freedom brings anxiety, unstable income, potential payment delays from clients, no organizational safety net, no cubicle to pin hopes on. They rely solely on themselves, profits and losses alike. Only by solving these new challenges can freedom gain true meaning. That concludes our interpretation of Cubicle. Reading notes are below the audio. See you next time.